Hey guys, this video is brought to you by Linode. If you guys are looking to get into cloud hosting, which means putting your website out there, check out Linode. They're the largest privately held cloud hosting company out there. I've used Azure, AWS, Google App Engine, and plenty of shared hosts. And of all those companies I've used, I find Linode to be the best. So if you guys are looking to get into that, check out the link in the description tab below. You get a $20 discount. Hey guys, what up? So in this video, what I want to talk about is the other day I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, and he's got a bachelor's degree in computer science already, and he's going for his master's degree right now. And I don't want to call out the school because it is a local school, and I don't want to call him out, but he was like, hey man, ask your audience about this. He's like, this because this is what my teacher's telling me. And this guy, he's a PhD, so he's done some computer science in the background. I guess he's been removed from it for quite some time now, but he used to work at NASA, and like I said, he's got a PhD, and he's teaching a master's degree program in computer science. And what he's telling his students is that you don't have to know how to code to be a software engineer. And my first inclination is I'm like, well, how could that be? But it's quite common in this industry that you'll have people that are your leads and managers that are far removed from the code, and they're not actually writing code day to day. So when I first hear that, I'm thinking, man, that can't be right. Like, how could you have somebody calling themselves a software engineer that doesn't actually write code or know how to write code? And how do you even get like the right advice and give the right advice if you don't know how to code? So I want to know what you guys think. I mean, you think that somebody could consider themselves a software engineer and actually be writing up software? And what I mean by that is, the higher level, the repositories, the APIs, the abstraction layers of software development, most likely a lot of UML diagrams and things like that. Is that all it takes in order to be a software engineer? I mean, can you not know anything about Node.js and still be able to give advice on whether or not you should use that over something like Golang or something else? I mean, like async await patterns. And I feel like if you're not coding in that stuff day to day, then how the hell would you actually how would you have the aptitude to write higher level languages and libraries and constructs that use all that lower level stuff? So let me know what you think on that. I'm just curious. Also, man, I can't stand open offices, man. So many companies went to this open office environment because Google and Facebook, said it was cool a long time ago. So people are like, oh yeah, we want to be cool and hip. We're going to go with the open office. And I think the number one reason for that is people, like the companies that go in that direction, they want to say that the reason why they're doing it is for team collaboration. But what I find is that, like, most of these companies that have open offices, like, there's really no team collaboration. You're sitting in your cubicle or your little desk area, and you're communicating with people from all over the country. And most of the meetings these days seem to be, digital anyway, and that's the way you have to do it when you have teams that are spread out all over the place. When I was working in Richmond, we used to have stand-ups where we'd actually go into a room and give our status meetings for our agile development. And then when I compare that to other teams that I've been on where, like, we don't do that, we don't have to get up and go to a room and stand around, in this awkward small ass room to give our status updates. We can just do it, electronically or digitally in like a WebEx meeting or Zoom meeting or anything like that. I just I don't know that there's any sort of collaboration going on in these companies that claim, these open office spaces were created with that mindset. So I also want to know what you guys think about that whole open office thing. I think it really boils down, and I think it's pretty obvious that the reason why companies do that is because they want to slam as many bodies into a building as you possibly can. And the reason why it's so annoying is that in an open office space, man, like, there are people that get distracted easily, and there's people that have, anxiety issues, and there's people that might even, have medical conditions and things like that. And like the open office is like, it's so distracting. It not just from a noise level, but also from visually, like people walking by, walking behind you, people having conversations around you. So the solution is like, oh, yeah, get some noise canceling headphones and put those on. And man, but if you've been wearing noise canceling headphones all day, I don't know about you guys, but like you start to get that like pain around your ear, and like it seems like it's just not a healthy thing. But I think it's funny because we work in a very academic setting, and we have a very academic job where we have to do a lot of research, and we're really trying to think, you know, deeply, especially when we're on a roll and we're just pounding out some code and like things are just coming together. It can be a real big distraction, like when you got people walking by you every 5 seconds in an open office. And then in addition to that, man, like somebody sneezes, coughs, you got loud people. You got people that are like just like eating at their desk, and like just you can hear them smacking on food and like tinging bowls. And like for our type of job, I find it pretty absurd that is like the de facto standard now, because Google and Facebook decided it was cool. Google and Facebook also had, you know, places where you get your hair cut. They gave out free food, like from, you know, from good places. A lot of places will say free food, but it's like the same shit, man. You get like, you know, cheese sticks and like some coffee and maybe some hot chocolate or something like that. And that stuff is great for like a couple weeks, and then eventually you're like, man, I don't want that. That could be free, but I still don't want that, because, you know, it's the same thing every day. But that's what most companies are doing when they offer free food, and I guess that's better than nothing. I mean, it's definitely better than nothing, but the thing that people should always keep in mind is like money is better than that. You know, money, pay me more money so I can go out and get my own food. All those things are designed to keep you in the office longer. Google has nap stations, man, where people can take a nap at the job. But it's like unlimited PTO. Like, even if it's there, you're not really supposed to use it. It's like, hey, Chris taking naps all the time. What an asshole, you know? Like, why isn't he working more? And those things are really just designed to keep you in the office more. Unlimited PTO is really just designed to keep you in the office more. I mean, if a company is going to offer unlimited PTO, there should be a mandatory minimum amount of time set for people. Another thing too that people bring up, a lot of companies have as a perk, the longer you work there, you'll get like an extra week of vacation after a certain period of time. And if everybody's got unlimited PTO, you got somebody like right off the streets, right out of college, and they get the same amount of time as somebody who's been like a tried and true dedicated professional for the company for, you know, 5 years or more. And I just don't know that that's fair. Like, how do you differentiate that? Like, you know, it's like, it's just weird. And then you also have people that don't take time off, man. So like, that's their prerogative, but like I hate that. Like I hate when people don't take time off of work, man. It's unhealthy. But, you know, everybody to each their own. You know, everybody's different, so I can't really judge, I suppose. But when you have an open office and you got all those distractions and stuff like that, it does make it a little bit more difficult to do your job. Another thing that I want to talk about is like, one of the hardest things about being a software developer sometimes, especially the more you know and the more knowledge you, like I say, you gain along the way, it's hard to not sound like an asshole sometimes when you have a bunch of knowledge that other people don't have. And people are always vying for like control over certain areas of software and things like that. You have individual developers on teams that are vying for control of certain things. You have entire teams that are vying for control of certain things. And you obviously have companies that are vying for control of different areas of the industry. And why do people do that? It's about job security, man. Like, everybody wants to feel like super important, and they want to, you know, a lot of people love that position where they feel like the company's not going to exist without them, and that they have to be in the office all the time. And rightfully so, because you get people that end up, you know, getting a lot of responsibility, and they become key members of the team, and it doesn't even necessarily have anything to do with their coding skills. A lot of times it's just simply, how long have they been on the team, how much responsibility have they been given, and how much of that core architecture did they write, whether it's great or not. I've been to some teams where like literally it's one person who's been there like 10-12 years, and they're writing, like, you know, they've been involved in so many facets of the software that they're pretty much like a de facto imperative person that you have to have around and you have to go to for all your answers. And many times it's because, you know, shit's not documented, It's just like spaghetti code and abstractions all over the place, and that's another thing too. I don't want to criticize people for writing spaghetti code. Like, that whole clean architecture and clean code concept, man, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, like solid, development principles, the gang of four for object-oriented, test-driven development, peer programming. Like, people are so opinionated about what constitutes perfect code. The other day, like, a game that was very popular, was created 10 years ago. It was created by a guy who was a math major, but he wasn't a programmer. And he wrote this game, I believe in C++ mostly. And he's got like crazy switch statements all over the place. And people were like criticizing how ugly his code was. But the game was a commercial success, and it was created by one guy. And the game is called VVVVV, I believe. And I just remember, like, people were talking about the fact, okay, like, this dude didn't use all these different object-oriented principles and these abstraction layers, and like he repeated code all over the place. And I understand game development's a different world, but like, even I don't know that I've ever seen like perfect code ever. I don't think perfect code exists. Like, we see Facebook rewriting their stuff all the time. They're reacting to what other companies and other projects are doing. And they're refactoring their code because they realize that you can do things better. And I just don't think that like there's such thing as like a perfect code base. So all these people that vie for like, oh, I'm a software engineer, I'm a computer science major, or I'm like a guy with 10 years experience and I know how to write the best code. Like, every code base I've ever seen is full of edge cases, man. It's full of criticism. You either have people that say things are overly complicated or sloppy as hell. And it's like, I think that like we should just be vying for good enough, and like just know that like it's always a moving target, and code is never really complete anyway. Even when you're done with a project or a new feature, you're always going to be maintaining and refactoring, and by the time you're releasing something, the company's already talking about this, sunsetting it and what the next, thing is going to be. So in the case of that VVVVV game, that's so hard to say. I think that dude did an exceptional job, man. He might have wrote the sloppiest code ever, but if you make millions of dollars off your sloppy code base, that's a job well done, in my opinion.